Hi, I'm Diane Blietz with D&B Communication and Business Consulting, and I have a background in communication, education, and business. And what I do as a consultant is I work with businesses and individuals to help them address some of their communication problems in order for them to build their business and be more successful professionally. Today we're going to talk a little bit about effective leadership and decision-making skills that all executives need to know. And it's really not all executives, but we're really here to talk about promoting you to that executive level of professionalism. Okay, but leadership is really everybody's responsibility. So we want to address that in talking about transformational leadership, transforming the way you lead that impacts decision making and engages others to want to follow you and to agree with your decisions and help you see those decisions through. So a brief overview of what I want to address very quickly, and understand that I go through a lot of this in depth with clients, but we only have a little bit of time to touch on it today. But first of all, kind of defining what I mean by transformational leadership. Secondly, I want to talk about understanding power and influence that leaders possess. And I'm not talking about that hardcore brute power. I'm talking about our ability to lead other people and have them want to follow us. It's a gift, it's a skill, but it's also a gift. And then how to emerge as a leader in your field, whatever your profession is. It doesn't matter the industry, it doesn't matter the workplace. Okay, but how to become the executive professional you want to be that's going to set you apart from your competition. We're all looking for that unique little kernel that makes us a little bit different than everybody else. And then finally, we'll look at how creative decision making can give you the edge in business. Okay, so let's go ahead. Leadership defined. Now these are just book definitions of it. You can see what leadership is, but rather than reading it, let's just look at a couple key words in there. Dynamic relationship, mutual influence, common purpose between leaders and collaborators. Notice I didn't say followers, it doesn't say that, but those who are actually part of collaborating and working with us. You know, I think we need to see ourselves more as teams rather than just groups of people working together. And this can help us do that. Have a good working definition of what leadership means to you and in your business, in your industry. Transformational leadership now, taking that idea, truly understanding leaders in the 21st century have a vision of where their teams and or organizations are heading. And they communicate that vision with their teams, and everybody's on board and everybody's working together to make sure that they can realize that vision, and they do it collaboratively. And that way, everybody feels like they have ownership with that. So some definitions, but let's look and see how leaders, how their power and influence can impact their ability to lead people or not. So there are all types of power and influence in the workplace that can impact our effectiveness. And remember, I said leadership is everybody's responsibility. So if that's true, then I think we all need to think about what is our power in the workplace? What is your power on a team, with your customers, your clients? Where do you fit in? And maybe your power changes all the time. I think we all have different power in different groups and teams that we're in, of course. So executive or position power, you know, maybe you're the boss. That's somebody's position. They're the person who is in charge of making sure all the work gets done, that everybody's doing what they need to be doing. Coercive power. That kind of power is the kind of power that somebody has to discipline, to fire, to criticize. I mean, that kind of power is necessary too, but when do we use it? When do we need it, and when do we not need it? Reward power. That's the kind of power we have when we have the ability to give somebody a raise, give them a promotion, send them on a trip, that kind of thing. That's very positive power that we have over people, or influence. And then expert power, influence. Somebody who they're the expert. They're the one everybody goes to when they want information. So if you're an expert in your field, if you're seen as the expert in your industry, great. You're going to notice that people come to you because you're the standard for them. Referent power. This is the person who people just see as having that power and influence over other people. They're a good leader. They know how to get people to follow them. They have great ideas. You know, they're always thinking about other people. So we refer to them as having that kind of influence. And then information power. There's just that person in all of our lives and all of our industries who has the information we need to get the job done. So for example, if you're in real estate, what you need to know about a title, clearing a title. You have to go to a title company. That person has information for you that you might need. If that's somebody who's sitting at the front desk, maybe it's a secretary in the office, that's the person who has all the information. That's the person who has the power and influence. And then connection power. Those are the great people who can connect us to about anybody we ever need to know or be connected to. They seem to know everybody and they're very well connected. So you can see where you and I, we would have these different powers or influence depending on the team or group that we're in. So what types of power do you possess that impacts your ability to influence other people? If you can really think about that and focus on that. In workshops, I work very closely with my clients individually and as groups to determine what their influence and power is, how they use it, and if they're not using it effectively, how can they use it more effectively to get the results they're looking for? It's all about the human element, and this is really important if we want to truly be leaders in our fields. So if we do, how do leaders emerge? Well, other than being appointed or elected, we know that some people just manage to become the leaders for a lot of different reasons. They're either chosen officially or unofficially. We just say, yeah, you're going to be the leader because we trust you, we like your ideas. That's great. But also, they don't necessarily have official titles, nor are they acknowledged as the leader. People just tend to look to them to be the leader. They're clearly leaders and followers, and that's fine. You need to do one or the other, right? But if you're going to follow, you need a good leader to follow. If you're going to lead, you need to have the skills that people want to follow. Sometimes they emerge by process of elimination by others. So the person who's too passive, who never shares ideas, who can't make decisions, or the person who's way too dogmatic and too aggressive and it's my way or no way kind of an attitude. Those are the people who, they're not going to emerge as leaders because they're not necessarily those who can get other people to come on board. Some tips for emerging as a leader, which if that's a skill that you're working on, I would say demonstrate your competence anytime you can. If you really can go outside your job description, outside your comfort zone, show people that. Show that you're competent in what you do, that you're the best at what you do, whatever that is. And then gain respect of others by your professional attitude, by your professional behaviors. Whatever you put out there, you're going to get back in return. We all have bad days, doesn't always work in our favor, but I think if we're really aware of the other person's needs and not our own, we're going to be much more successful. It's stepping back and just seeing how we can really reflect on people the attitude that we want reflected back on us. And become known as an effective problem solver and decision maker. I mean, that's a great skill. There are just some people who are very sure of themselves when they make decisions. They make good decisions. They are the problem solver. Well, if that's you, then let people know that and be that. Step up and be that person. And be assertive but not aggressive. So, and the same true for if you're too passive. If you're the one who sits back or you're the one who's too aggressive, check yourself. Self-awareness is something that we all have to do and be aware of at some point, and make sure that we are, again, putting forward the same attitudes and behaviors that we want to see reflected back on us. So I would say that if that's what you're working on. And to develop yourself as a business leader, which I would think, whatever we're doing and whatever our field and industry, we want to be leaders in some way. Maybe not the leader, but we definitely want to lead certain elements. So excellent leaders, they have a follow-up plan for all decisions. They have a follow-through plan. And I say this because I've known people, I've worked with people who, they have a plan, but they haven't followed it through. They haven't seen it through. This happens a lot in meetings, and that's a whole different topic, but that's what happens is there's no real follow-through, and so people aren't held accountable for getting things done. Having a good plan. If you can do that, you're way ahead. Excellent leaders don't make excuses when things go wrong, and they don't put blame on other people. So-and-so didn't get that in time. So they don't do that. They just say, I'm the leader, I'm responsible ultimately for the outcome. As well as excellent leaders don't need to take all the credit either. Chances are when we do something well, we do something right, somebody else was behind us, supporting us, or being a part of that success. So we want to make sure that we're acknowledging that. And then excellent leaders set expectations and goals. They provide feedback, and they obviously, they're going to praise other people for what they do and the contributions they make. The more we praise other people around us and recognize really truthfully and definitely doing it in a way that's honest and real, but also hold members accountable and enact consequences when there are consequences. I think good leaders, they don't have to be well liked all the time. We're not trying to say that you have to be everybody's friend. We need to really do all of these things. It's a combination of those things. And it's not just expecting that of those who work for us or with us, but it's expecting that of ourselves. So leaders need to expect that of themselves as well. Okay? And then let's just switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about creativity in decision making. So when you're talking about leadership, leaders have to make decisions. They obviously have to make decisions. But not all leaders feel that they have to make decisions on their own. Sometimes you do, but sometimes it's a good idea to get other people on board with what we're thinking and get their ideas out there. And I think according to creativity theorist Roger Van Urch, this is a guy who's talked about different ways we use creativity in decision making. So explorers, for example, these are people who seek out new information. They're always trying to see what's new, what's out there. They're always looking around. And then artists, they put ideas together in different ways. They're always asking, what if we did it this way? What if we did it that way? Have we considered this? So you can imagine how important that could be in decision making. And then judges, those are the people who evaluate after a lot of discussion, but they evaluate possible solutions and select and implement one particular solution once they've gone through that whole process of finding what is the best solution. And then the warriors, those are the ones who take that solution and they run with it, and they are the ones who develop and carry out the plan. They're very energetic, they go get it, and so you really do kind of need all these people in that process. So creative decision making. And then some considerations. I think whatever your decision is, I think that you need to ask yourself, what type of decision is being made? Is this an important decision? Is it going to affect a lot of people? Who's involved in this decision? And how important is it? How important is this decision? If it's really not that important, how many people do I need to engage and involve? Which one of these people would be most useful in making that decision? And then how much time do I have available? Is this something I have to do quickly on the fly? Do I have 2 weeks? Do I have to decide by next year? How quickly do I need to make this decision, and what's the time that I have to do that? What are the relationships then between and among those people involved? We always have to, again, consider the human element. We're working with other people all the time. So how do we involve them, engage them, and make them part of the process? And what's my relationship with those people? And if it's not a good one, how can I make it better? How can we keep it cohesive and yet, not at the same time get along and be cohesive, but also be willing to disagree with one another? So that's a little bit about creative decision making and how leaders might view the process a little bit differently. I always say in everything in business, it's a good idea to set goals. I work a lot. I do a whole workshop just on goal setting with people because it's not something that we're all used to doing. We all make that New Year's resolution and then we don't stick to it, by third week in January kind of a thing. So we want to make sure that we're setting these goals, but again, putting them on paper. When we put them on paper, it's like they're permanent. And we feel like we're more accountable to them, I guess, and we can hold others accountable, especially in the workplace. And so setting SMART goals. Now this is not something I've come up with. This SMART goal process is actually used in business and nonprofit world, and often it's used. So you may be familiar with it. But make sure that the goal that you set is specific, measurable, attainable. That word's also you may have seen as action-oriented. And then realistic and timely. That's important. Go through those steps so that you don't miss one. Okay, asking yourself this will help you make a better decision, hopefully. But be specific. So I've kind of set this up where maybe somebody's meeting with a client and they want to make sure that they're listening really well to what the client's needs are, what the client's asking for, what they're saying they don't want. Oftentimes we get so caught up in what we want to give them or sell them or do for them or what they need that we don't listen to what they're saying they need. And listening is still, probably the hardest, but one of the most critical communication skills we have. And I think somebody in fundraising once said that they never listen their way out of a donation. Well, we may not listen our way out of a sale either, or whatever else we're trying to achieve or trying to get. So in this case, I will not cut people off while they're speaking. Very specific, right? So very specific. Is it measurable? Well, did I hear what they were saying? Did I try to empathize with them? Was I successful in not interrupting? I can measure all of that, right? And again, very simplistic, but action-oriented. Well, I'm going to be aware of my nonverbal communication while listening, okay? Something I can clearly do, and it's attainable. It's attainable and action-oriented. Realistic. What are some of the constraints that would prevent me from waiting? Can I control myself? Will there be times when I have to interrupt? So sure, you don't always just have to let somebody go on and on and on. If they're really on the wrong track, maybe you need to interrupt. Maybe they're just wrong. Maybe you have to for whatever reason. Okay, so ask yourself, is that goal realistic all the time or in certain situations? How realistic is it? And then is it timely? So give yourself a time period to meet this goal. A lot of times, clients will set different times. It depends on what they agree on in the workplace, but oftentimes they give themselves 30 days, 90 days, whatever it might be, depending on what the goal is. So monitor your actions for that a period of time and see if you are able to kind of get closer to that goal. Because if listening is a skill you're trying to improve on, this could be really valuable to you. And then finally, just kind of to wrap it up, just ask yourself, am I an effective leader? Do you think you are? Do people want to follow you? Do they see you as the person that, has certain influence and power that's positive and they really look up to you? And what are your expectations for professional excellence at work? We all do. I personally have a value statement for myself and how I want to project myself, what I expect of myself when I conduct business. And so, what are your expectations for professional excellence? And everybody's not going to have the same standards, but at the same time, you can expect that high-level performance if you're trying to become the leader that you want to be. And do we as a team discuss these things? Do we collaborate? Do we have an understanding of each other? Do we share ideas and thoughts and opinions? And am I more likely to praise, criticize, or do I just sit back and I don't say anything? There are times when we need to do one or all three of those things, and it's just becoming more self-aware and knowing when we need to do that. There are times when we need to praise and we need to be authentic with that. We need to criticize, but we need to do it with respect and understanding. We need to stay quiet when our voice, our opinion doesn't really matter that much. Do I make good business decisions that others support? So do people look to me as somebody who can make good decisions, and I can do it either quickly when I need to, I can take the time and be thoughtful and methodic about it. And then reflecting on my leadership and decision-making skills, what would I like to improve about myself? My gosh, I think we could all take a look at that and really get honest with ourselves and say, what are the areas that I want to work on? And then finally, I just know, what else would you ask yourself? Maybe it's something that I haven't thought of. These are just a few things. But if you're proactive about it and you really want to take yourself to that next executive professional level, these are some of the very critical points that you need to be thinking about. Okay, so some of the things that I do with my clients, as I said, I mentioned a few, but basically when it comes to the leadership workshops and skills that I do, is I do one-on-one consultations and team and group workshops to help folks develop stronger leadership and decision-making skills. There are people who rise up to leadership positions unexpectedly. They just get promoted, but they don't necessarily know how to be a leader, or they're not comfortable making those decisions. So I can help them just get a better feel for who they are as that executive, as that leader. So I like to help folks develop leadership style profile and improve their understanding of how great leadership can influence clients, customers, our coworkers, our bosses, all there, but to know, just kind of, again, reflecting on who you are, and then show you how to use what you learn to develop and nurture leadership qualities in other people. That is the greatest thing we can do, is share those leadership qualities with other people. so that we're helping them rise to the same standards that we've expected of ourselves. And everybody knows that they can step up and be a leader at any given time. Okay? And then also, I customize leadership and decision-making workshops and with strategies and tools that are unique to your business and industry. Not everybody's the same. What works for the real estate world isn't going to work for the IT world, or isn't going to work for the maybe the nonprofit world. I mean, it's all different. What is going to help you specifically? That is what I want to help you with. So hopefully some of this information has, and you can use it, and it's at least a starting point. It's a discussion point for you. I always do a free consultation with my clients, up to an hour, and find out a little bit more about them and what they think their needs are and ways that I might be able to help them with those tools and strategies that I told you about. You know, about 90% of the problems we have in the workplace are communication related. So you could see where all these things that I do are communication related as well. And I just really like to help people be that executive professional they want to be, as I'm building myself to be one as well. Here's my contact information, and please get a hold of me. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.